Okay, so we are back here again with the KLI SR4 for a third time, this being a CO2 gas blowback M4. A lot of you guys in the comments had a lot of questions and were really curious about the system, so we decided to just answer some of these questions as best as we could. And number one, the question that we got was about the receiver group itself, because we've been saying for a while that this is made out of a forged aluminum receiver group, which is probably the first airsoft gun out of the box to feature something like this. Yeah, like the idea of a forged receiver, why is it so special? Well, I would say like the very vast majority of airsoft guns out there are going to be made out of cast metal. So that kind of metal is usually based off of a zinc alloy because it is lower cost to produce, and is significantly weaker than other materials like steel or aluminum. So this guy being made out of forged aluminum, again, first of its kind. And what difference does that make between a cast body and a forged body?
It's kind of like not first of its kind, mass produced.
Yes, mass produced, yes, because there are forged receiver groups that you could buy, aftermarket for certain gas blowback airsoft guns.
MWS.
Yeah, for the MWS, for VFC platform, all sorts of stuff. GHK, yeah, but they're very rare and usually they cost a ton of money. I believe we were out there, we looked at a forged receiver group from for the MWS system. It was like $1,200.
Not gonna work. Well, for granted, it comes with the front too.
Yeah, but still, it is ridiculously expensive, and that's because a lot of the tooling required to make forged receivers like that overseas, it's a very big investment for a lot of these small-time shops. But this is coming out straight from factory forged receivers, so it might not look super special, on camera, but just holding it in the hands, it feels way more solid than a lot of the other receiver groups that you see in airsoft. And just to show you guys, because we were really curious about this too, so we asked KLI and they sent us over these forged blocks here out of aluminum. So these are actually pretty hefty. So the way that it works, just like how you would manufacture a real forged AR-15 receiver group, you start with an aluminum block, it gets heated up red hot, and then you take a die mold and then you hammer it. You hammer it into this rough shape over here. And after that, it gets sent to CNC machines and stuff, and you machine out all the holes and all the parts that you would need to turn this guy into a functional AR-15 or Airsoft M4 receiver group. So again, this is pretty crazy because this is the first time, at least for me, I've seen something like this come out from factory. So again, there are aftermarket companies who might do something like this, but very, very prohibitively expensive. The next thing that people talked about was the steel inner components. Why does the internal components, why do they have to be steel? So some people even pointed out that, hey, when you're running steel components, like a steel bolt and like a steel buffer, doesn't that slow down the cycling rate of your M4? And I would say in the context of like a lower pressure green gas system, yes, absolutely. If you look at a lot of other gas blowback systems out there, generally we want to find the lightest material. Usually it's like aluminum. We usually chase after like aluminum bolt, aluminum buffer, because of that lower pressure gas. It'll speed up your cycling time. Not with the SR4. This guy is remarkably snappy and it still holds up a very decent rate of fire, even compared to other green gas blowback M4s out there. It holds up like pretty much 1-to-1. But the thing is, the main reason why this has to be steel is that the overall longevity and the lifespan of your parts. So if we put, let's say, like a weaker metal like aluminum, or dare I say even like zinc in the internals, because of the higher pressure of CO2, it will chew it up really fast. And even if you were to put, let's say, aluminum buffer, aluminum bolt in here, you're going to run into a lot of these issues long term where the parts will generally wear down a lot faster. And also because this is a higher pressure gas system, you kind of need the heft to combat things like bolt bounce, which will eventually, again, chew up the internals of your M4. So it's really cool to see that KLI, they pretty much pre-upgraded this guy out of the box with full steel components.
Yeah, like for example, people were saying VFC stock guns, even if it's at their generation 3, their bolt catch is still somewhat weak. There are certain things that's somewhat weak.
Yeah, so I believe VFC even, I don't have too much experience with VFC just because of how rare it is in the United States. But yeah, like from what I've seen, VFC, even their bolt catch of the older generations, they were made out of a lesser quality material. but with the KLI, it is a full steel bullet catch system, and it works very true to like the real thing. So instead of just like a little latch that the bolt catches on, it has the U-shaped hook and it catches that bolt in place. So it's extremely reliable. Like even when this guy is almost completely out of gas, it will still lock back, which is pretty impressive. The next question that we got from a lot of viewers is about the CO2 system. So some people pointed out that running 2 CO2 gas cartridges here at the same time is not that much of a unique thing. I think some people pointed out that there was like a Tipman system that implemented 2 CO2 cartridges, but I would say after looking at the Tipman system, they're completely different beasts. The Tipman system is pretty much like an HPA system, so you would use the 12-gram CO2 cartridges to basically power like a non-blowback, almost like a HPA system running on CO2. But obviously, this is a completely different animal. This thing kicks you in the shoulder pretty freaking hard. And the reason why you need the 2 12-gram CO2 cartridges, number one, it will give you more recoil. Number two, it'll help you basically double up on your gas capacity, so you have more gas to work with. You can shoot for longer. And number three, having that extra gas volume will help combat in cold weather. And that brings us to the next question that people had was, how does this compare against black gas? Because there are some people that like to run black gas. So if you don't know what black gas is, it's basically just like a higher pressure form of green gas. It's a gas mostly comprised out of propane. It's like a propane kind of mixture, and it runs at a higher PSI than your standard green gas. So some people like to use that with their green gas powered airsoft guns during colder weather or during the winter time. And of course, other people like to run CO2. Now, the reason why running CO2 is, in our opinion, better than, let's say, black gas is that CO2 will run at a higher PSI than even black gas. So black gas, for the most part, on average, it'll have about 200 PSI of pressure in your magazine, whereas these 12-gram CO2 cartridges, they have 800 PSI each. So you're getting significantly more pressure in this thing, which will help combat the cooldown effect and also, give you that extra bump in power, especially in cold environments. The last thing is, especially with black gas, is you have to be careful when you use higher pressure gas like red or black gas, because they're very temperature dependent. So if you use a higher pressure gas, let's say like black gas, during the summertime when it's hot into your magazine, you might run into a lot of issues, and it might cause you to prematurely break or wear your gun unnecessarily. And so you can only really use that during colder temperatures. This guy you can use all year round. Because the gas pressure is regulated directly in the magazine, you're going to get a consistent or more consistent FPS level out of your gun all year round. So you don't have to worry about switching to green gas when it's warmer, switching to black gas when it's colder, right? It's an all-in-one system.
So is there a backstory about KLI CO2 system?
Yeah, so KLI, if you guys don't know, they had a lot of help from this man called Tanyo Koba. He's basically like the grandfather of what you would call modern gas blowback airsoft guns. He's pretty much came up with the design. He's kind of a legend in Japan. And like I said, KLI, they received a lot of help from him. He helped design a lot of these gas blowback systems. And so even in Japan, right, KLI is extremely popular, where they would run even things
in a different name.
Yeah, under a different brand, obviously, when it gets imported into Japan. But they use CO2 polymer blowback airsoft guns all year round as well. So because of how elegantly the gas is being regulated directly through the magazine, it allows them to do things like that, where even in more restrictive environments and even colder environments like Japan, right, people are still enjoying CO2 blowback airsoft guns without a problem.
Yeah, 800 PSI, and you can only shoot it below 1 joule.
Yeah, so again, those are some pretty tight restrictions, and again, all the pressure is being regulated through the magazine itself, which I think is a way more elegant system rather than you trying to manually adjust it in the gun via, like, let's say, like an NPAS unit. I think there's a lot of people that might not really understand how game-changing it is that you are doubling up on your CO2 capacity, because there are CO2 gas blowback magazines out there, even for rifles, that only take one cartridge. And I think that's kind of...
GHK, NWS, BFC.
Exactly, yeah. So they're only using one cartridge, which I think is kind of like a wasted potential, You know, so the fact that KLI can allow you to run 2, so you're doubling up on your capacity, that really gives you a big boost, especially during wintertime gameplay.
So can you tell us a little bit about the performance?
Yeah, so as far as performance goes, even from our testing, like we were able to shoot out to about 240 feet, no problem. Obviously, with a gas pellet rifle, I always recommend using heavier BBs. So use 0.30 gram BBs or heavier if possible. That'll basically allow you to take full advantage of the gas system and really maximize your range. You could easily outrange a lot of AEGs out there just by running a gas pellet rifle, and the KLI, I mean, it goes toe to toe with the best.
What was the range that after you guys tested out, you know, stuff like that?
Yeah, so I think with 0.30 gram BBs, which we tested out with, we were able to get about 240 feet, no problem. We're still able to hit a man-sized target, and if you really wanted to,
in the wintertime.
Yeah, no, during the wintertime, yeah, we were able to get about, I think with a more moderate rate of fire in semi-auto, we're able to get easily over 2 magazines worth on a single fill of these, you know, dual cartridges. And in full auto, you could mag dump it, and you know you'll still have the bolt lock back at the end.
So about how many rounds?
So I think round count wise, I think we counted about 70 rounds, like 2 mags and maybe 10 mags on the 10 rounds on the third mag.
On a single.
On the same charge of CO2. Yeah, a very moderate rate of fire. So it's not you spamming the crap out of it, but if you really pace your shots out, you know, to mitigate that cooldown effect. I mean, yeah, you can get easily 2 mags plus.